This afternoon, the National Commission for Civic Education is urging Ghanaians to unreservedly uphold and defend the 1992 Constitution against interference and interruptions as we celebrate 30 years uninterrupted constitutional rule. The day marks coming into effect of the 1992 Constitution and the birth of the Fourth Republic on this day in 1993. The NCCE, in a statement released in commemoration of this day, quotes Article 3.4 of the 1992 Constitution to remind every citizen of Ghana of his or her duty to defend the Constitution, stand in defense against any person, group or issue that threatens the very fabric of our democracy, and must reject oppressors' rule in any form or anything that seeks to disturb the peace and stability we enjoy. The NCCE notes that despite these gains, strengthening our democracy by reforming and improving our constitutional infrastructure should once again be made a national priority. This will help tackle constitutional deficit and aspects of the 1992 Constitution that seemingly breed apathy from the public, disengages the public in major aspects of governance at the grassroots and national levels, further deepening marginalization, promotes excessive powers of the executive, and festers the cause of corruption. This is the thrust of our discussion this afternoon. Let's begin with your responsibility as a citizen of Ghana and speak with the Communication and Corporate Affairs Director of the National Commission for Civic Education, Joyce Afutu, who joins us via phone. I'm grateful for your time, Madam, and happy Constitution Day to you, Joyce.
Happy Constitution Day to you, Aisha.
What kind of reflection should all Ghanaians be having on a day such as this one?
The reflection is that, in fact, the Constitution is one of the pillars that have held the whole nation together for the past 29 years. And for that matter, every Ghanaian must cherish this feat that we have all attained and ensure that we guard the feat so that we can grow our democracy and also continue to uphold a constitutional rule.
Now, in your statement in commemoration of today, you are asking Ghanaians to uphold and defend the 1992 Constitution against interference and interruptions. What exactly do you seek of us as Ghanaians?
Okay, for upholding and defending the Constitution, I mean, living within the tenets of the law is one of them. And if we have anything that will derail the constitutional rule of this country, it is the duty of every citizen to protect and defend the Constitution. So if things are going on that are contrary to the laws that is being used to govern this country, that is what we are seeking every Ghanaian to be watchful and mindful and ensure that we protect and safeguard our nation from any external threat. Currently, you can realize that in the border regions and all that, there's a threat of violent extremism and all that. So we have engaged citizenry living around the border areas to be able to be vigilant and then ensure that they will not succumb to any threat by extremists. And also we have engaged the youth of this country and people nationwide. So we are saying that if we are celebrating this day, we must all know that we are together because of the Constitution that is holding us together. Hello.
Now, you have also admitted in your statement of today that despite the gains we've made, strengthening our democracy by reforming and improving our constitutional infrastructure should be made a national priority. And you say it will help tackle constitutional deficits and aspects of the 1992 Constitution that seemingly breed apathy from the public. And I'm just asking this, and you say that kind of thing disengages the public in major aspects of governance, deepens marginalizations, and you say it promotes excessive powers of the executive. Now, in the view of the NCCE, what exactly should the citizenry be focusing on and doing to strengthen our democracy and also prevent acts such as corruption from happening?
Yes, for issues that are supposed to be reformed, we are looking at active citizens' participation and looking at our grassroots. In 2014, the Commission undertook a research on this assembly, and close to 70% of the people wanted to elect their own MMDCs so that they can be accountable to them. currently that they are appointed, the appointees know that they are accountable to the appointing authority. So if we revisit that issue of election of NNDC, it will be one of the reforms that will encourage grassroots participation of the citizenry. Also, if you look at the Independence Enhancing Governance Institutions, the IGI, which NCC is included, the Commission is looking at the establishment of a democracy fund so that the independent governance institution really be independent and then undertake their work. Also, on the issue of appointment of majority of people from Parliament, we are looking at proper separation of power. But when it happens this way, it means we are not seeing that. So if all that can be reformed so that we can meet the aspiration of Ghanaians, that is one of the issues that NCCE is calling for. Also, we are looking at the issue of gender equality. If you look at half of the population, if you look at the representation in Parliament, there's nothing good to write home about, even though there has been an increase. So if, as a country, we can ensure that as part of the reform, we can adopt a quota system, or we can pass the affirmative action bill into law to enhance that one. It will also promote a healthy democracy. Then we are looking at how the youth of this country, we can find ways of engaging them, because when they are disengaged, that is when we also start to other pressure around them. So these are some of the things that, among other things, are formed.
I'm grateful for your time. Joyce Sefutu is Communication and Corporate Affairs Director at the NCCA. We can now broaden the conversation and speak with constitutional lawyer and acting director of the Ghana School of Law, Maxwell Opoku-Agyeman, who joins us via phone, and also Martin Kwebu, who is also a constitutional lawyer, who joins us via Zoom. I'm grateful for your time, gentlemen, and happy Constitution Day to you all.
Yeah. Hello.
All right, Mr. Agyeman, let me start with you and I'll put the question straight directly. Yes. Has the Constitution 1992 outlived its purpose?
Certainly not. Certainly not. Because if you're a constitutional historian in Ghana, you realize that despite its imperfections, this is the best constitution that we all have. Yes, certainly it may need some overhaul a little bit, but to come to a conclusion that this constitution has outlived its usefulness, I think it will be overstretched. Because this constitution has outlived even the expectations of so many people, knowing the constitutional history of Ghana. Because the predecessor of this constitution lasted for 22 months. The predecessor of the 1979 constitution also lasted for 22 months. And for this constitution to live from 1993 to today, I believe that we have to give praise to this constitution, notwithstanding some of the imperfections that you and I may have identified.
Now, if we all agree that the Constitution in its entirety is not problematic, but portions are what we should review, I want us to take us one after the other. Which portions are we talking about? And I know the strongest point, I believe, will be the executive powers. There are those who believe the executive wields too much powers, which is problematic. Are you of the same view?
Certainly, a constitution itself as a framework document, the workings of it depends on the people who occupy offices. And therefore, sometimes the words alone are not sufficient, but the actions of those or the actors, because the Constitution is just a combination of words, but then the practical nature of it. And therefore, when it comes to the executive power vis-a-vis others, of course, you may think that the executive power is overbearing. For instance, the appointment of so many public servants that are given to the president to appoint. Obviously, I think that the first option that we should have adopted was even the appointment or the election of NCCE, DCE. Look at the number, a lot of them. But of course, we were unable to reach a consensus to take that power from the executive president and give to the local people. And then also public services. Certainly in other jurisdictions, if you want to appoint an electoral commissioner, it should not be by the president who will be contesting election for re-election or whatever. Maybe it should have been done by somebody else. But that notwithstanding, I believe that if we can look at all these things and maybe come out with a consensus that some of, and go back to the 1969 model. You see, the 1969 model introduced what we call the dilution of the office of the executive, in which they introduced the military council, the armed forces council, the police council, the media. All these were aimed at reducing the power of the executive so that others who are non-political will be involved in the appointment of certain key institutions. So maybe we can look at it. We have gone through a lot of things. We have seen what is going on. We have done it before, and that was the 1969 model. We can look at the 1969 model vis-a-vis the 1979 model, and then maybe move on to dilute the power of the executive. But since politicians were not in consensus at them, even to the election of MCs, and that was shut down, I don't know. Maybe some people didn't want the dilution of the executive power. Otherwise, that would have been the first step, to dilute the power so that those at the grassroots will elect their own MCEs, their DCs. That would have been the first step. Then we will move on to all these parastatals and SOEs. Because if you have a board, I don't see how a president should appoint a chief executive for a board. Right? So a board is constituted, and then the president appoints the CEO for the board. I think that these are areas we can all consider, but we should have started from the political angle, where MCEs and DCEs will be elected by the people, because that will require just a constitutional amendment which does not require a referendum. We should have done it, but as I said, it's not too late. Maybe we can start the discussion and then change the dynamics.
For us to go back to the report of the Constitution Review Commission.
Well, I remember very well my position on the Constitution Review Commission. In fact, I was consulted and I made my position clear. See, the Constitutional Review Commission was dead at best. Dead at best. Why? Because the Constitutional Review Commission was not based on consensus building, but on the promotion of a manifesto of a political party. And if you do that, there's no way you will get the others to support. So I remember saying that if you want to do a constitutional review, what we need to do is a broad consensus. But rather, if is tailored in support of a manifesto of a political party, others may not join. So I remember very well, even though I was a semi-consultant, I made my position clear. And also, the Constitutional Review Commission, I don't know whether it was to rewrite the Constitution, because if you want to start a constitutional review, you should rather adopt some of the basic issues. You see, it has over 100 and something proposals. If you have 100 and something proposals for constitutional review, then you better rewrite the Constitution. They should have looked at the critical areas where we have problems. So I suggested, for example, that the ministers being MPs should be looked at again. These are things that we can do. The minister being also an MP. I think we should have looked at it from that perspective. And then also this Article 71 emoluments issue.
Yeah.
These are critical issues that Ghanaians have been talking about. I thought that we should have looked at those critical issues and do the amendment rather than having all these so many questions. At the end of the day, you won't get a broad consensus. But if we want to go back, we should go back in a broad consensus where it is not a political party's manifesto, but rather all political actors and Ghanaians with the CSOs agree that these are the salient. I believe that now we have identified some key issues that there will be a broad consensus, and we can all look at it. But if we are to go back to those days, I remember very well, I said that it was a waste of money because it will not get anywhere. And I think I've been vindicated.
Now, I have a hold for me, Ms. Opoku-Agyeman, because Fix the Country convener Oliver Bakavamo says the political class is unwilling to support moves to overhaul the constitution. The pressure group has for some time been calling for the fashioning of a new constitution. According to Oliver, political actors in opposition only pay lip service to the change in the constitution, but when they actually assume power, they are unwilling to cause for the change. He says that it is the case because the current document favors the political class. He cites the absence of the budgetary allocation to constitutional deliberations show that it is not a priority for the current government. He spoke on the AM show with Israelite.
So, I was part of that constitution review process. And I understand that a lot of times, because we are too distracted by shiny processes, we do not interrogate them enough. And I say this because when that process was put in place, it came again under a part of the Constitution as a commission of inquiry powers that was used to set it up. What it meant in essence was that whatever report that was produced was only going to be an advice to the president, an advice he could refuse to take on board or not. So the manner in which it is even set up tells you that there's no real commitment that whatever the product of that process is would lead to anything substantial and tangible. And the history has shown us that that's exactly what happened. So we have to be very mindful and be watchful of statecraft and how these things are orchestrated, because we can go around this dance, and we've been doing it since 1993. In fact, when the constitution was put in place, the MPP then tradition had said that no, this was the worst document they had ever seen on the continent, and that we were going to get a new constitution in the shortest possible time. We are here over 30 years now, and we are still indulging in this game. You've seen my majority leader also talk about the need for a substantial review. Listen, it's not anything different from what they said in 2010, and we are here 12 years later. So I guess I've lost the pretense, right, that comes with, yeah, something is going to happen in the constitution, but it's a document that favors the political class. And that's why they are very much opposed to any idea of talking about the change of the document, because they understand that any change of it will go substantially to affect the ways in which we have structured government that favors a certain limited class of people. And so they continue to throw in this review there. They give you a sense of buzz and excitement about it. But honestly, let's go back to the budget that was presented this year. Did we see any budget allocated for consultations and any activity towards constitutional amendment? No. It gives me a clearer sense that it's not executive priority at this time. So if a wing of the executive, which is the NCCE, comes out and says this statement, they've known this a long time ago. We've been talking about this forever. So what has changed now? Did they present any budget towards educating Ghanaians towards a need for a referendum? The NCCE did not. In fact, in preparation for this day, one of the things the country has been doing is that we've been talking to Ghanaians across the country, whether you have ever even seen the constitutional document and then read it, together with those who have not seen it and those who have not read it. About 86% of our people have never seen nor read the Constitution. That is damaging for a democracy which has committed money and has a whole institution which has branches across districts in the whole country to be educating people on the Constitution. It is part of the gimmick. And I cannot explain, I cannot find new ways to explain how nothing is going to happen, because the system doesn't want it to happen. And if we want something to be changed or reviewed, overhauled, whatever form we say we want it. Because I don't want us to be distracted in, oh, you guys say you want a change, but review is what we need. That's why no action is being taken. For those who believe in a review, go ahead then. Initiate the process and do something about the constitution process. They're not going to do anything. And that's kind of what I want Ghanaians to be aware of and not fall into this game, really.
Bakavoma is convener for Fix the Country protest. Let me bring back Mr. Opoku-Agyeman, and now I acknowledge that Mr. Akpebu has joined now. But Mr. Opoku-Agyeman, let me find out from you, is there the political will? The two major political parties have been accused of lacking the political will, to effect changes in the Constitution. What's your reading of this accusation?
Well, Unfortunately, I am not in the political arena. Therefore, as for whether they have the will or not, I am not in a position to answer. But I have been in this field for a long time, and sometimes I shudder when people are in opposition. They say something different. When they get to power, they say something different. As for constitutional overhaul for there are certain things that can be done easily without any, but the interest. So when I see people being emotional, very sentimental, I love it. I love it. Provided that will be consistent when they get the opportunity. Because when they get the opportunity, that is where the song change. That is what amazes me in this country. So I don't have a problem. But the challenge that I have, let people who always talk about overhaul. You see, sometimes we don't. When you are holding something, you don't know what you are holding until you lose it. This constitution, notwithstanding its imperfections, you and I, as a journalist like myself, we should cherish it because a constitutional change should not be born out of sentiments and people having issues with one party or the other, but something that go to the root of whatever discussion. When we do that, I think it serves everybody's interest rather than, that's why I said, if you want to change a constitution like what we have, a constitution that has been able to survive this long, what you have to do is that we must go into substantive matters rather than a political manifesto. When that happens, you won't get the broad consensus. And once there's a broad consensus lacking, I can bet you that it will go nowhere. But let me tell all others who are asking for, maybe they wish that the Constitution is overhauled. When we say overhauled, is it replaced with something else? Please think about it seriously. Because I was a journalist at Ghana Broadcasting, and I saw when there's no constitution in this country, what journalists went through in going through artillery fire in order to get to broadcasting, to go and even read news. So please, let us be careful when we talk about overhaul. What do we mean by overhaul? Replacement? I don't think so. There are certain things that all of us may agree. I agree with him. Politicians always have a change in song. But luckily for some of us, we have to be consistent in what we are clamoring for in this country. And I hope the person who spoke, I hope when the opportunity comes and when he gets the opportunity, he will not change like what I have seen in my life. Because in my lifetime in this country, I have seen a lot. When they are here, this is what they say. Constitutional review is important, but it must not be tailored towards a manifesto of a certain political agenda, but rather it should be based on national consensus. When that happens, we won't waste $6 million in setting up a committee that was bound to fail. That's all I can say, because I believe that the Constitution has useful portions. Certainly, there are problematic areas. Let's identify those areas, but we should not do it wholesale, but rather identifying some of the key things that you and I will agree on and then change, rather than coming out with 164 reviews. 164. The Constitution has how many articles? And if you come out with 164 reviews, then it means you are going to throw away the Constitution. When that happens, it becomes a problem. And now, let people, I believe that we saw what happens in our parliament. People were criticizing it. I criticized it too. But it is better to do that, see that brawling in parliament than to exchange of guns and exchange of fire, where people will suffer revolutionary justice and some will be killed. The Constitution has prevented. You saw parliamentarians doing all manner of things which were very sometimes distasteful, but it is better than to see them exchange fire or exchange fire in broadcasting house where some of us were working. So please, let imperfections or all. It is good. This holiday, constitutional holiday, I believe that it's good that this holiday has come for you and I to interrogate this constitutional dispensation that we have. Yes, we have problems, but I think, notwithstanding the imperfections and the problems, this constitution has at least has served a purpose for which it was promulgated.
I'm grateful for your time. Maxwell Opoku Agyemang is a constitutional lawyer and acting director of the Ghana School of Law. And I want to introduce Mr. Martin Kpebu, who is also a constitutional lawyer, and Professor Asari, who is a professor of law. And let me start from where Maxwell Opoku Agyemang left. He says we don't need a total overhaul. Mr. Kpebu, what's your stance on the ongoing debate? Do we need a total overhaul or amendment to portions of the Constitution?
Aisha, it may well turn out that they are all saying the same thing. Because if we are amending portions, eventually it may lead to a total overhaul. So for me, it's exciting that so far everybody agrees that this our Constitution is no longer fit for purpose. We need to do something very urgently about it. The major problem of the Constitution is that it has concentrated too much power in the presidency, and that is endemical to our development. So once we all agree on the general principle that we have an authoritarian constitution, well, we can sit across the table, then tabulate all the changes we want. Yes, we know the Constitutional Review Commission did some work, but because of issues of acceptance here and there, it looks like it's inevitable that we have to go through a certain exercise again for people to validate the work of the commission or something of that sort to get more broad-based acceptance, okay? So let's not underrate what we've achieved so far, and that is the fact that we all agree that we must do something about the Constitution. No two ways about that. And that's a good starting point. So for me, the next thing is, let's see how many agree that we should cut down the president's powers. And that is the heart of the matter. That's the kernel of the matter, because everything lands on the president's desk. And so when you create a constitutional sort of dictatorship, you can't have the best development. Okay, so let's just do it. Let's just do it in such a way that we can move forward as a people. Let's cut down the presidency powers. One, when it comes to the ministers, okay, can we have it done in such a way that he alone does not have to appoint all? Can we do that proportional kind of representation when it comes to even ministers? That would be super, so that the president alone doesn't choose everybody. You come to the judiciary. We don't want the president to appoint the Chief Justice, Court of Appeal judges, Supreme Court judges, and all that. No. We want true independence for the judiciary. So the Judicial Council should be responsible for appointing the Chief Justice. And the president should no longer have so much influence in that. Let the president concentrate on the executive. He doesn't have to hire and fire High Court judges, Court of Appeal judges, Supreme Court judges. Actually, I don't know how true it is. Somebody did a tabulation of all the appointments, and he says the number about 6,000. I should think actually it will be more. Yeah, it will be more because, even police service and all that, the public service, everything eventually is the president who is responsible. These are the things we want to take over. The heads of when I say take over, that's to say, let's bring the people in, let's make it more participatory. Let's more, so you often hear participatory democracy. It is time for us to give more teeth to it. Yes, I acknowledge that we participate by voting in elections, but that is not sufficient at all. The various regimes over the years have shown that elections alone are not enough by way of citizens' participation. We want to have participation in appointments of certain offices. So you see the constitutional bodies, the Electoral Commission, the president should no longer be the one to appoint. No. Chief Justice, I've already mentioned, the IGP. Are you aware that even when the police appear before the Constitutional Review Commission, they may declare that they are not interested in the president appointing the IGP? No. So we want independence for the police as well. You say, so the president should call executive functions. Let the police council appoint an IG. And let us have a lot more of civil society participation in the police council. Right now, yes, the GBA has representation and all that, but that's not sufficient. We need to increase more. So for me, as I said, it's very exciting that we've all agreed that we need to do something about the Constitution. And for me, that is more than 50% of the work. As to the specifics, let's regroup. See the Minister of Parliamentary Affairs, Dr. Agredaku, the Chief Director. You know, they were convening a conference to look at the Constitutional Review Commission to kind of solicit more ideas, and then, for lack of a better word, to kind of validate some of the what do you call it, the recommendations of the Constitutional Review Commission. Yes, it's good because it's been some years since the Constitutional Review Commission finishes work. We are aware of the government white paper and all that, but we cannot run away from the fact that it wasn't this administration that championed that review. So naturally, we need to do more to get the buy-in of the current administration, and then we can implement. But the key thing is this, Aisha, after today, when next are you going to have another Zoom to check on the progress? Because we all keep talking about it until Dr. Agredaku convened the meeting, and then the meeting too got cancelled, I think in the throes of passion about the e-levy. The e-levy took all the attention. That is my guess. So that conference got cancelled. I think we'll ask Dr. Agredaku to go back to the drawing table and come back with a new date so that we will picking steps on it. Because look, this review of the Constitution.
All right, so Martin Kpebu there, I think we've lost him briefly. He will join again. Let me bring in Professor Asari. Professor Asari, is your view different from that of the two lawyers? I mean, should we overhaul the Constitution? Is there anything wrong with the Constitution in its state?
I'm assuming that's just a rhetorical question, because by definition, every constitution is imperfect. And if you want to know why it's imperfect, you just look at the Constitution itself. It has a whole chapter that is devoted to amending it. The Constitution is a living document. It's drafted, and then people have to live with it for many years. Things change, society evolves, and as things change and society evolves, then the Constitution has to be amended accordingly, or sometimes even interpreted to embrace the change.
Yeah.
The difficulty we have in Ghana is, instead of just amending the Constitution where there are problems, we prefer to talk about it all the time. That's really, I'm really amazed that we are always debating, should we change the Constitution, should we do that? All of that come to nothing. The most important thing is, if people feel strongly about some ills in the Constitution, they garner signatures or whatever, draft an amendment bill, get a parliamentarian to sponsor that bill, and push that bill through the process that the Constitution itself has designed. But all of that things that we do, that's just noise.
So we've all agreed that there's no political will between the two major political parties. They come in opposition, they say something different. Once they are in power, they say something different. I mean, what should be the way forward how do we move on from here, Prof?
There is political will. The Constitution has been amended before. The Constitution was amended in 1996. Okay. Most people don't realize that.
Okay.
Even as we are speaking, there is a constitutional amendment bill that is in Parliament that I'm involved.
Okay.
So the important thing is, if people want some provisions of the Constitution to be amended, they have to be proactive. Okay. They just, rather than just come and talk about how the Constitution should be amended and how people, you champion, you draft a bill, you get someone to sponsor it, and then you push it through Parliament. Okay. That is how it's done everywhere in the world.
Okay.
A constitution amendment process is not going to be easy, but it requires people who are dedicated to change, who would push it, and it has to be a gradual process. Okay. The whole idea of sitting down to rewrite the whole constitution or to amend 50 articles, that's just not how constitutions operate. And if you operate a constitution that way, you are creating constitutional instability. The Constitution must be accepted as the guiding document going forward, and then we make piecemeal amendments as and when specific provisions become too difficult for the people to handle.
Okay, so let's talk about the bill that is in Parliament, which you are involved. What does it seek to amend?
It seeks to amend Article 94(2)(a) and Article 8(2), both of which deal with how and whether we should involve people who owe allegiance to countries other than Ghana in the public space.
Okay.
The amendment seeks to involve all Ghanaians, and it says that if you are a Ghanaian, especially a natural-born Ghanaian, then you should not be excluded from holding any public office. Rather, you should disclose to the people that you have another citizenship, and the people should take that into account when they vote. Some people may care about that and will not vote for you, fine. Some people may not care about that and would vote for you, fine. So that is the essence of the two bills, two constitutional amendment bills that we have in Parliament right now.
What's the progress as we speak?
It's in committee, and the one on the constitutional amendment is with the Council of State.
Okay, and all right, so we're looking forward to this happening when Parliament resumes?
Precisely, yes.
All right. I wish you all the best with this one. Hopefully it will pass and others can follow. I'm grateful for your time, Professor Asari. He is a professor of law. And I want to thank Martin Kpebu, who is also a constitutional lawyer. We lost him briefly, but he made his point. So do you think, what do you think of Constitutional Day holiday? Here are some views from the streets of Accra.
Well, I haven't even thought about today being a constitutional holiday. I'm a businessman and I don't really focus on government businesses. So I'm not well in tune with the constitutional affairs of the country.
Constitutional holiday is a new policy that has been brought into the country. So each and every one is celebrating it aside. Yeah, that's what. We are only resting. You know, during holidays, you need to be in the house and have a rest, have a chat with your family, and have fun.
I think is that it reminds us of the Constitution, 1992 Constitution, how it came about and the logics behind why they were put in place in the Parliament. For me, I am busy at the office, so I have so much to do, and I'm on my way to the office to get my work done.
So every day we are expected to live our lives in conformity with what the Constitution states. So I don't necessarily think that a special day should be designated for a Constitution Day, because the Constitution guides our lives every day as citizens. Without the Constitution, definitely there would have been chaos. Probably if we as citizens and the government, gubernatorial actors, do the needful in ensuring that the details of the Constitution are truly enacted, the concept of balancing of powers, you know, effecting punishments for people who contradict the whims and caprices of the Constitution are probably dealt with, then probably you could see that there should be much enthusiasm celebrating a day like this, knowing that you are remembering and you are kind of using days like this to give more rights to people to, to praise the government for actually ensuring that the rule of law is operating well. So for me, until we reach a point at Africa, at Ghana, where rules are effected, the Constitution is effected well, people are punished accordingly, then a day like this will be like any other day.
Well, Interior Minister Ambrose Derry has poo-pooed suggestions by some that the 7th January declared as Constitutional Day is an idle holiday. He noted that the Constitution will make the people reflect, improve and consolidate the gains made by the people in embracing multi-party democracy. He said one aspect of the country's democratic ideals which needs to be developed and built on is tolerance. Ambrose Derry was speaking in an exclusive interview with JoyNews' Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam, who called on Ghanaians to be tolerant and respect for each other views which the Constitution requires from the citizenry.
What is happening in Parliament now, in the 8th Parliament of the Fourth Republic, is a matter of concern. I say so and I want to put it in context. This is the 8th Parliament, and probably when the President decided and we went to Parliament to declare 7th January Constitutional Day, some people thought it was an idle holiday. It is not an idle holiday. We want people to wake up from complacency, that we think that we have arrived as a multi-party democracy. Yes, within the region we are a shining example, but I believe that the Constitutional Day should give us an opportunity to reflect and improve and consolidate. And one aspect of our democratic attitude that we must develop and build on is tolerance. Tolerance of different views. And that's what we need to build on.